I think the most important thing is to realize that you get to be the leader of your life. And that's one of the things that I completely had lost track of in my life is that I wasn't leading my life at all. I had become such a part of such a part of that relationship. After 20 something years, you're basically living one life. And I realized that I had gone to the extreme where I was managing everybody else. I had a husband and four children and a bunch of animals, the whole white picket fence thing. And so I was spending a lot of time in that realm, but I wasn't really leading my life. No wonder I lost track of who I was.
I can relate, Deb, definitely.
Yeah. So that's step one is to stop. That's the S in steps. Then for the T, it's to toss. So, whereas to stop is mostly dealing with your inner self, right? You're wanting to stop the racing of your mind. You're wanting to stop the overwhelm of everything that's going on. So, you do the stop steps. This is more about dealing with things, activities, and things and responsibilities. So, I use the T for toss is to table. Set aside decisions, issues, and problems until you create a system or a method to address them. I'm not saying procrastinate. You do not want to become the princess of procrastination. This is a specific, decisive decision to take a look at the things in your life that's making up the busyness, the activities, and other things, literal things, and saying, okay, is this something that I need to take care of, or can somebody else take care of it? You can delegate it. Do I really need 5 or 15 spatulas? Maybe I can toss a couple of them, right? How about, oh, my great aunt gave me this set of pillows, but they don't match anything in your house. Maybe take a picture of the pillows and donate or give them to somebody who would actually use them, whose decor they may fit better. So it's all about tabling things so that you can come back and deal with them later. And you do come back and deal with them later. The O is very much like table to omit certain things. There are some activities you do because it's become habit. Maybe you don't have to drive the kids to school. Maybe there's a family member who's retired, but they can drive, and maybe somebody else can do that for you. Be creative, think outside the box, and offload activities that reduce stress to help you focus on what matters. So, this, once again, it's all about being purposeful. It's all about being proactive. It's all about making decisions and living your life rather than having your life live you.
Yes, and to me, it seems like one of those things that you just do something different to break the patterns
Yes.
that we're used to break the identities that we adopted over the years. I've heard
Yes.
do little 1% mind shifts or do some kind of different activity, take a different route from work to home. And it just
Yes.
changes you because we tend to be on autopilot. You know,
Yes,
we're
exactly.
so
And that's what I said earlier about having ruts in our lives. That's in our thought patterns, even the way we go to the grocery store. We tend to do things the same way because it's comfortable. Think about when you go into a conference or a classroom. That first moment, everybody goes into the room and they grab a seat. For the rest of the conference, people usually sit in the same seats, right? Because we're human beings and we create patterns to make our lives easier. And those
yes.
same patterns can end up trapping us. It's like that rut in the road. So, in order to make sure you don't continue wearing that goat path in the road of your life, do something different. And I heard one time that every fraction of an inch that you take, if you're going toward a goal, every fraction of an inch you take takes you farther away from the goal.
Mm.
And in this case, I'm looking at it as a positive, like you said, to shake up the monotony that you find your life has been in, even though you've been in a lot of activity and
And like you
busyness.
said, doing it purposely, right? Setting an
Yes,
intention. You know, I will
that's
take a different
exactly
route
right.
from work today. I will set aside 5 minutes to hear the birds chirping outside. Anything that you do that you usually don't do on a daily basis, just try that. It doesn't have to be major, it doesn't
Yes.
have to be an hour. Just take 2 minutes, do something different,
Yeah.
think about it, set an intention.
Yes. And the title of this presentation, of this workshop, is Revision. So the entire point of this is to set a vision for your life, to re-envision your life. So ask yourself the question, am I doing this particular activity or keeping this particular thing? By doing that, is it taking me closer to the vision I have for myself and my future? Or is it keeping me where I've been before? Or is it of no consequence?
Right.
Anything that is of no consequence or anything that's keeping you where you are stuck, eliminate and move toward the things that will move you toward the vision of your vibrant future.
Yes.
So the first S is to shake off negative commitments, emotions, habits, and expenses. All of these, if
Woo!
you notice, they go along together. Yeah, you
Shake them
shake it
off.
off. Yeah, because we don't recognize sometimes how overwhelmed and beat down we are carrying things that we don't necessarily need to carry. We probably do it because, well, we've always done it, or it's what we believe other people expect of us. And I know you've heard this story, and let me know if you have. I'm sure people listening have heard the story of the young bride who was making dinner, and her new husband observed her cutting the end of the ham off. And he thought it was strange. So he asked, well, why do you cut the end of the ham off? And she said, well, that's the way my mom did it. And that's the way my grandmom did it. So that's why I do it. And for some reason, he was just enamored by that. So he said, let's find out. So he called her mom, and her mom's answer was the same. Well, that's what my mom always did. But her mom was dead. So she called her dad and asked him, do you know why mom cut the end of the ham? Now, this is the mother of the young bride asking the grandfather, and the grandfather said, your mother did that because the pot was too small. And so it had just generations that had come down. We cut the end of the ham off. No, nobody realized it was because the pot the grandmother was using was too small.
Mm.
And that's a
Yes, that's why
lesson
the
for us.
questioning is so important, right? Asking the
Mhm.
questions. Where does my belief come from? Where does my behavioral
Exactly.
pattern come from? Why do I do the things I do? And a lot of people don't get to ask that themselves.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think it. We are sometimes too busy, right? We're sometimes too stuck because we've just always done it. And so we go along without being purposeful.
Yes.
And then the next S is to shift. And kind of like the first time where you practice the first three, shift is basically the shift happens when you do these things, when you table things, you omit things, you start shaking things off. You'll see that your mindset and your lifestyle begins to change, and it's good for your overall well being. So there is a shift as you do these things, as you're purposeful.
If you want something different in your life, you have got to start doing something different. Even if it's those two
Yes.
minutes we're talking about, even if it's changing that one little thing that you do on a daily basis.
And the important word in that sentence is the first one. You have to do it. Nobody else can actually make these changes for us. We have to do it. So if you're tired of doing the same thing and getting the same result, you make a change. You stop. You toss, right? You become awake. You know, we live so much of our lives in what feels like a sleep mode. You know, it's like it's in the background. We really haven't turned it off. We really haven't turned it on, but it's running in the background of our lives. And very much like our computers, if you have too many tabs open, or if you have too many programs running on your phone or on your computer, then you're going to end up with a slow system. The
We're gonna
same
crash.
thing. We're gonna crash. Exactly. So the same thing happens in our lives. And you may find that you're there right now. Anybody listening to this, you find that you're there right now. Truly, truly use these techniques to help. They've helped me so much. My entire life has changed. And that's why I've taken the time to write these out. When I was going through the minutia of life and the stress and the struggle of being in a relationship that wasn't working, that eventually ended, I had to wake up, but I wasn't thinking in these terms. And that's when I started thinking about putting together these steps to help people to manage when they feel like they can't manage, because these are steps and the steps are made up of micro steps, sub steps and micro steps.